Hello and welcome to Bloomberg Quint. I have with me Tata Consultancy Services, or TCS, the country's largest IT company's new Managing Director and CEO, Rajesh Gopinathan, with me to talk us through how he's going to fill some fairly big shoes. But besides that, what his vision is for TCS. Rajesh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Bloomberg Quint. I will not say that it is, well, congratulations, yes, but it is a challenging job at this point in time. The IT industry is going through several different impulses. What's your take on where or how you all are positioned, and whether 2017 will be a better year than last year or a tougher one?
So, a bit of history to this. I joined TCS in 2001 and that was the time that we were rolling through from the post Y2K period.
Correct.
And the general, there was a sense of, I should say, despondency in the industry, not in the industry, in the general market, saying that the Indian tech industry is dead and it's just going to roll over and just pass away. And people in the industry never quite believed that. And we had Chandra, who said that we got to get on with the next wave, which is e-business. And those days we had less than $100 million in e-business revenues. And we set a target saying that we got to get to $500 million, which was big for us. And we went about systematically building that out. Today, we have a new technology in the offering. It's digital, it's different, but digital is as different as e-business was in 2000. Does it demand new skills? Obviously, it demands new skills. Will we need to work hard? We'll need to work hard. But the point is that if you believe that you will ever get to a state where you don't need to do that, that's the time you die.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
In this industry, it's change is the only constant. You got to, so we have the ability to do that. We have a history of doing that, and we'll continuously do it. And it will not stop now. It will continue. 10 years later, there will be something else, and we'll be changing ourselves into that. The point is, technology is the single biggest demand driver all over the world in every single industry. You go sit through any of the commentary here, essentially every industry is getting more and more technology leveraged, and that's huge demand. And we're sitting on 400,000 highly skilled people. We're sitting on a highly scalable, trainable workforce. We got deep customer relationships. Each of them is wanting more technology. I mean, we would really need to I'm super excited about the whole journey.
So it's the medium-term challenge plus opportunity that you've just outlined. Okay. Let me talk a little bit about the short term, right? All of Davos has been consumed by President Trump and his policies, and one of those policies could potentially be, we don't know as yet, but to clamp down on immigration of sorts, to reduce H-1B visas, bring in new kinds of safeguards, etc., etc. This is going to be a difficult ask of the Indian IT industry, not just your company. I've spoken to the Tech Mahindra CEO, the Wipro CEO, and they said the only solution is localization, but that could impact costs, right? Then you've got a stronger dollar going on right now. It's going to be a year full of currency volatility. That again impacts costs. So do you believe that 2017, from a margin and profitability point of view, is going to be more challenging than last year for across the industry?
Think about it this way. It is not a challenge for the Indian IT industry. It is a challenge for the IT industry. And the reason is that US tech unemployment is at practically zero. It's a hugely supply constrained market. So it's not that there's a ton of talent out there and you can just go out there and hire. So it's not just about shifting it. You've got to develop that whole supply base there. You got to look at how do you engage with colleges. What we realized is it's not just about at engineering level, because whatever output comes from engineering is sucked out by the industry. So we are now actually engaging at a high school level. We have a very active STEM education program running, because we are trying to actually encourage people in. The net, there's a big fallacy in the assumption that the expat person in the local geography actually earns less than the local. That's not the way it is, because the local talent pool, when you think about the pyramid of the local talent pool, it is a much more verticalized pyramid, because you don't have such a big pool of people at the entry level compared to in India, where the sheer pool of entry level talent is such that the pyramid is much more flatter. So on a like-to-like basis, if you compare it, actually it's a lot costlier to send an expat into US than to actually take an expat person there. So it's more of you need entry-level engineers, and that is where the short supply is. And if you build on that supply, the whole economics of it will work through. So the short-term challenge for the industry is how do you deal with this supply constraint. So there is a local supply constraint, and now there is a potentially a supply constraint coming from, and that needs to be solved. Part of it is so we are relooking at how we are using local talent. As I said, we are engaging a lot more through the ecosystem, trying to develop that supply base. We are looking at delivery models. What can we do about that? So it's a more holistic approach to it, and it's not going to be a simple answer, and it is not about Indian IT or somebody else. It is going to be about the whole industry, because it's a very mobile talent pool, and the impact will be felt by everyone. So it's going to be a area that will have to be carefully watched as to what the specifics are, and the whole industry is engaged in it.
Currency, and will 2017 therefore be a tougher year to show?
One way of looking at it is 50% of my business comes from a market. If the currency becomes stronger, good news for us. I report in Indian rupees, so that doesn't really impact it. So a strong US dollar is optically it gives different numbers, but economically it's not a bad thing for companies like us which are participating in that market. The volatility of the currencies, especially the way the rupee and the other currencies are behaving, that leads to further challenges.
Pound, Australian dollar, yen.
So euro is a concern, yen is a concern. Yen is still small for us, but euro is a concern. The whole Brexit pound reaction. So it's not the dollar is the least of our concerns. It's the other currencies, and that basket and how INR is dealing with it. So that's where I
know the problem. I'm wondering whether it will mean a tougher year on margins. From both counts, you've outlined both problems for me, but you've not told me whether it will mean a tougher year for margins. And again, I'm not asking for TCS guidance because I know you'll say no to that. I'm saying across the industry, will everybody struggle?
There are positives also. Demand seems to be picking up, and the demand for the newer skills, the newer industries, which has got a much better price point, is picking up. Automation is increasing in area, which actually changes the cost dynamic. So there are multiple moving parts which we can actually play on. So we are still not in, I would say, a very poor spot as far as the expense side goes. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. So I don't want to get ahead of myself.
We're still not in a very poor spot as far as the expense goes. That's the key takeaway. Last quarter, which is Q3, both you and Chandra sounded very optimistic and positive about how the quarter had fared. You came in at the bottom end of your margin band, but you also announced pay cuts that quarter in variable pay, and I'm told it was the second consecutive quarter in which you cut variable pay. Now I'm sure that variable pay is a small percentage of what you totally pay out. I don't have the numbers. I'm hoping you'll provide me and tell me why is it, if you all are saying that the quarter was very good and things are looking better, that you're at this point in time cutting pay?
No, it's not. It's a component of how the company is structured. As you know, we are structured as individual business units, and the business units have a lot of flexibility in their own decision making and managing their one. So the variable pay reflects individual unit performance rather than as a single wide.
But I understand that the cut was almost across the board with the exception of trainees.
No, it varied by the unit. It was based entirely on the
so
unit
it was between
performance.
0 to 50% cut across, depending on the unit. But everybody saw a pay cut.
No, that's not true.
So how many? Could you give me a sense of what?
No, that would not be appropriate. But
okay, can you give me some clarity on why it was that you were at one point saying that the quarter was good, that the outlook is good, but on the other hand cutting salaries? The
variable pay reflects the actual quarter performance rather than the outlook, and our commentary on the outlook versus the quarter is different. And if you look at the way the year has panned out, the year has panned out softer than what we had thought. So obviously versus the targets that various units had, it's not quite there. We are nowhere near where we were thinking we would be at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
So it's
Fair
always, that's the...
Okay, that's fair enough. I know that you make the case for the long-term continuous use need for technology, but I'm still going to ask you this question on the outlook. Politically, at least, it seems to be a fairly uncertain year when you listen into all the Davos commentary. Do you think that the demand environment will be robust in 2017?
I can reiterate that among all industries, technology demand will be the best. There is no other industry that's going to fare better than ours. But where the rest of it goes...
No, I'm only talking about yours. I'm not talking about anything else.
So, relatively, the technology industry will be far ahead of everybody else.
Okay, what does it feel like to be in Chandra's shoes?
Still figuring
I
it
asked
out.
Chandra this question when he took over, saying what does it feel like to be in Ram's shoes?
I've not had a chance to sit back and think about it. It's less than a week. In fact, I have to not yet sunk in.
Not yet sunk in?
Not yet sunk in. It's been a roller coaster right now, just running around.